You are watching On Demand. Please do not try to vote or enter any competition or other interactivity in this programme, as it may not count and you may still be charged.
Today on your Loose Women Live, it's Jane Moore, Denise Welsh, Linda Robson, and Paris Fury.
Hello and welcome to your midweek Loose Women. Coming up for you on today's show, Simon Cowell has admitted to being a bit of a teen terror back in the day, but of course went on to become an accomplished businessman. So we're asking, can a misspent youth lead to eventual success? Then we'll be revealing the very important conversation one therapist said we should all be having early on in a relationship that might stop any issues in later life. And sports presenting royalty Claire Balding will be with us. That's for the first time since trading her OBE for a CBE earlier this year. She's going to be joining us to celebrate an historic year of achievement for women in sport, something that's very close to her heart. But first, a big Loose Women welcome back to Paris Fury. Now, Paris is here in the flesh for the first time as a panellist, because it was always on Zoom before, wasn't it, in the lockdown. But you've been a bit of a busy lady, so tell us what you've been up to.
I have been really busy, actually, of lately. We've been filming a Netflix documentary for the last 4 or 5 months now, and it's been going really good, but it's slightly strenuous at times when everything goes wrong and the kids don't participate the way you want them to, which is most days, and they have a temper tantrum and they throw themselves up the floor. But it's going well on the good day. Well, you've got to take the good and the bad, haven't you? But it's been going good.
Brilliant. You know, when you're doing one of those reality shows, because I always think because I know with me some days I think, oh my God, it would be so boring because we'd be in the house a lot. Do you sometimes feel that you feel a pressure to invent things?
I feel like we never leave the kitchen. We're always in the kitchen. I think that's
the
everyone's
most interesting stuff.
But no, I don't, because when we signed up to do this, we said, look, we're filming our lives. We're not going to make novelties up. There's sometimes when they'll say, look, we want you and, say, me and my big girl, Venezuela, to have a conversation. They'll say, right, could we set you up to go to a nice restaurant so we're not in the kitchen again? Yeah. And it's like, that's set up. But other than that, we try to keep to our lives. Yeah. Like, they filmed me in Home Bargains the other day. It was very embarrassing. Like, I'm walking down picking up my soups and my nappies and all the things that I need, and people's looking like something real famous is going on, but people must like that. I don't know if people want to see the norm.
It must be weird because, like, in the comfort of our own homes, we've all got, like, behaviour patterns and stuff like that, and the way that we deal with things. And it's like if you have a stranger suddenly in the house, you kind of react differently, don't you?
Yes.
So it's like holding up a mirror to you.
I guess the kids have got used to them being around if they've been there 4 or 5 months.
People are seeing the good and the bad now, because when it was the first few weeks, you're sort of in that stage of trying to keep the house nice, trying to look good, trying to make the kids be so lovely. And then after a few weeks, like, oh, hush, carry on. Just go on, come in, I've got no makeup on.
So what time do they arrive of a daytime, and how many people are in your house at one time?
On a regular, there's like a team of maybe 5 or 6, but on a busy day, there's like a team of 10 or 12.
Is there?
And they sort
Just
of like...
make tea for everyone?
In your kitchen?
Thank goodness, they all head down to Starbucks, I don't know. But yeah, they'll all come in, there'll be a few outside, few inside. Somebody will follow Venezuela upstairs, someone will follow Tyson to do what he's doing, someone will follow me. And it's like, we just sort of live with it. But I have come accustomed to them being there now. The only time you really notice them is when it's like everything breaks down, and like one night the kids was going in the bath and they didn't want to participate. So the screams and the noise coming from the bathroom till I come out like sweating, like, this just has to stop. Obviously, there wasn't filming in the bathroom, there was outside, but I was like, we're not going to get this lovely little bedtime scene. No, you think it's going to happen
It's
here.
reality.
It was reality,
you know, there you go.
Said, this is life.
So Tyson retired and then hasn't retired. So tell us about that.
Tyson really believed in his heart of hearts he retired. He retired just after the last fight. And he really believed it. To me, he kept telling me, I am retired, I'm not going to box no more, I'm telling you the truth. And I kept saying, but I don't believe you. Then
Were
I
you also
started
thinking, I hope you don't, because you'll be under my feet all the time? Were you thinking
No,
that?
at first I didn't, and then I did. At first I was thinking, oh, great that he's going to stop boxing, because there's always a risk in boxing, and it's always a worry. So when he said, I'm going to stop, I thought, you've achieved as much as possible, you've done really great, and you don't need to box anymore, and we're quite secure, so that's wonderful. After a few months, he was getting up at 6 a.m. He was finding it restless. He obviously doesn't have anything to fulfil his daily needs, his daily time. So he was training twice a day. He was running to the tip. He was taking kids on the school run. So sometimes he was a help. But then he started a 7 a.m. time pick-up. Then he started the 6 a.m.
Oh, God,
then he'd be nudging me. Do you want a coffee? Do you want to get up? Come on, let's go for a walk. Come on, let's take the dog for a walk. Let's go do this. And it's like, oh, you have to.
And you've known him since you were a teenager, so you probably knew in your heart of hearts that that might happen, didn't you? Because it's good for his mental health, isn't it?
Yeah. See, Tyson went through a bad time of depression. And I really did notice, whilst he wasn't training or looking into fights, how much it sort of dipped him. And even though he's learned how to you know, progress in life with mental health problems, yeah, he managed to deal with it daily, but you could see the lull. And then the moment he started talking about coming back to boxing, and he had, like, a meeting that day...
There was a lift.
A lift.
Because
a light
that's
went
quite
back on.
common with sports people, isn't it?
Yeah.
Especially those who've been very open about their mental health issues, like Tyson brilliantly has.
Yeah.
But, you know, I remember years ago, my old mate Paul Gascoigne, it's the same, is there is this massive void in their lives when they've had such a structured life, being told where to be and what to do and everything.
And
so it's, yeah. Anyway, I'm pleased for you.
Cool. Well, great to have you. Great to have you here.
Thank you.
Now, yesterday it was announced that former Health Secretary and MP for West Sussex, Suffolk, Matt Hancock, will be appearing in this year's I'm a Celebrity alongside our very own Charlene. Hours after the news was announced, he was suspended by the Conservative Party. So, should politicians be allowed to appear on reality shows in a bid to appear more human? Here he is, look, on the front page. He's getting a lot of publicity, obviously, for doing it. Right, brace yourselves, folks. Denise!
But not on the front page of every paper is it so joyously celebrated, Jane, as your own, if I may just say. I am fuming, which won't surprise anybody. But I am fuming, and I am disgusted, and I cannot find any humour in this appointment at all. As far as I'm concerned, we are still suffering the repercussions of what happened over the last few years. And I was very vocal, Paris, about COVID restrictions, some being incredibly unnecessary, and the impact that would have on people's lives, livelihoods, and mental health. And Matt Hancock was at the forefront of those. We all know now that whilst we weren't allowed to see our granny, and anybody, and I am included in this, who had a family member in hospital or in a home during COVID, my dad subsequently died of pneumonia, but nevertheless, I wasn't allowed to see him at certain times. And I live with the pain of that every day. And there are people who were not allowed to see their family for a year. Remember, it was illegal to get in your car and go and visit a loved one. Even when we had the vaccines that were supposed to free us, Macs were working, we had tests. So we could say, I will do a test before I go and visit my dad, who is lonely in his house. No, whilst he was having an affair with some woman in the broom closet or wherever he was. While the government, from day one of this, were carrying on in Downing Street, what about if we weren't supposed to even pick up a book off a bookshelf in those ridiculous times when the books were banned and stuff?
Because we haven't got long on this. So I know that you have an issue with government policy during lockdown.
With Matt Hancock's policy, he was at the forefront of it.
We've discussed that a lot. But
he's not a celebrity.
What is your problem? So that's what I wanted to get to the nitty-gritty of. So your anger in this particular instance is that he's using his
I don't care
position...
whether he's a politician or whether whoever he is.
Right.
He was the health secretary of this country. And he's going to go in there and pretend that he's Mr. Nice Guy. And what annoys me is that if one person... I tell you what, I've never, ever envied people going in the jungle. I love the show and I'm a huge viewer. But I'd go in there for 1 hour. With Matt Hancock.
I don't think you could cover all you've got to say in 1 hour,
Well,
to be
I'll give it a
honest.
damn good try,
But
Kev.
he's a backbench MP now. He's no longer in the cabinet. His argument is that by going into the jungle, he can connect with a younger
total rubbish.
audience. He can, you know, spread the word about dyslexia,
Oh,
which is,
shut up.
which is.
Matt Hancock, not you, him.
Thank you, Linda. What do you think
I
about
think he's
it?
in for a big shock, and I think he's the reason that a lot more people are going to be watching I'm a Celebrity
Yeah,
this year, because
yeah.
you know that every trial they're going to vote for him to do every trial.
Yeah.
And if he tells,
See that?
Let
He's made the mistake what he wants.
Denise, let Linda speak. So,
if he's made the mistake of telling them that he's frightened of anything, God help him.
but
because they
doesn't
will
that
make
mean
sure
he gets more airtime?
He gets more airtime.
It does. And people go in there thinking, oh, they're going to see what a nice person I am. But people go in there and you find out what sort of person they really are.
But Linda,
because
this
when
is
you're being
not
filmed...
even, it's no humour in it. You see, the thing about doing all the trials and all that kind of stuff, if it was anybody else that we just didn't like very much, but this man was responsible for people losing people in the last years of their life.
Well,
Whilst
no, he wasn't responsible for COVID.
No, not for COVID, but he was responsible for the continuation of
No,
the
it wasn't only
restrictions.
him.
No, they were-
No, but they're not going in the jungle
There
to
was
be
the whole
treated as a
cabinet.
celebrity.
But you were in the jungle with
Doris,
who was also a
politician.
serving MP.
Yeah, and the same thing happened. So obviously, when we got to Australia, you get locked away in a hotel. So she had to be locked away somewhere that nobody knew about, because obviously all the paps wanted pictures of
Yeah.
her sitting around the pool or whatever. But I actually got on really well with Nadine Dorries, and she's got lovely girls, and we had a lot in common, because she'd talk about her kids and I talk about my kids and that.
I don't think that's so much the issue. For me, I just think because you're a serving MP, you're not serving your constituents while you're, you know, I have no issue with anybody who is a former politician, like, say, Anne Widdecombe or Ed Balls.
He's also done
Strictly.
Who Dares Wins as well, and they offered me that series.
Well, that would have been fun. That would have made him run fast,
What do you
wouldn't
think,
it?
Paris?
Paris, would we see Tyson in the jungle? What would he be like?
Oh, Tyson did get offered to go in the jungle a few years ago. I think he'd be stone useless, I've got to be truthful. He is horrified of animals, creepy crawlies, anything that's not the norm. One time, a rat ran out from under the shed outside. The idea was we had to see what was underneath. He jumped on a chair and squealed like a girl.
Oh, my
So
God.
if he went
Get
in
him
the jungle...
in, get him
no
in
help
there.
at all. Everyone would starve.
That I would pay to see, I have to say. That would be great fun. OK, still to come, he's one of the most successful people in show business, but Simon Cowell has admitted to having a bit of a shady past. We're going to be talking tearaway teams next. And she's best known for covering some of the nation's biggest sporting and royal events. But recently, Claire Balding has given us a peek into her home life alongside wife Alice on Celebrity Gogglebox. So we're going to be hearing more about the special reason behind those sofa appearances in just a few minutes. Nice to see you again. Still to come, presenter Claire Balding will be here around 1:15. She's going to be revealing what was behind her drive to succeed as a woman in the world of sport. And we'll be having an honest discussion about an honest discussion about scenery falling down.
No expense spared on this show.
Yeah. Sorry about that. We'll be going off talking now in just a moment. But after that, we'll be talking about care in later life, because a therapist believes that you should be talking about your care package when you get older, but talking about it when you're very young. But competition time first, and it's our final week of our biggest competition of the year. Josie Gibson is in Cyprus with all the details, and where hopefully the scenery isn't falling down. Hi, Josie.
It is beautiful, 26-degree sunshine. Welcome to Alfie T's, the local karaoke bar, and we're here to find out what life is like as an expat, because with this competition, you could literally have a brand new life in the sun. Now I'm joined by Joe. Joe, this is your bar. What's the best thing about living in Cyprus?
The sunshine, the people, the driving on the left-hand side of the road,
Lovely.
and a few loose women coming in now and again.
Few loose women coming
Yeah,
in now and again, all
absolutely.
right. Well, there we go. Well, you could literally be £500,000 richer with this competition and have a brand new life in Cyprus. Bob is going to kick it away on the karaoke while he warms up his vocals. You get your entry in because lines are closing on Friday at 4 p.m. Good luck, and good luck, Bob.
For another chance to win, text cash to 82248. Text costs £2 plus one standard network rate message. Go to the website, entries cost £2. Call 09068 782248. Calls cost £2 plus your network access charge. Or post your name and phone number to Cash 44, PO Box 7558 Derby DE10NQ. Entrance must be 18 or over and lines close at 4 p.m. on Friday the 4th of November. Good luck.
Gonna spend all my money on you.
Huge amount of money there. It could all be yours with just one vocal. Come on, Bob, let's go. Woo! Look at this. How are you both in the sun?
Thanks, Josie. Now then, 13 is the age that kids become teenagers, and Simon Cowell has admitted to being a little bit of a naughty one, describing himself as a nightmare who got up to all sorts. Now, Paris, your oldest, Venezuela,
Yes.
she's just turned 13.
Yep.
Does
So I
that?
know
Did she
all about
literally
it.
go to bed as a really cute 12-year-old and then wake up?
Within a couple of months, yeah, that's exactly what happened. Yeah, Venezuela is just gone 13, and we're just going through all this sort of teenage tantrums. They're all just starting. Recently, we had Venezuela got a smartphone. We always discuss, should we get the kids smartphones,
Yeah.
shouldn't we? And then she seemed like she was the only one of her friends that didn't have one. So we got the smartphone, and her one rule was you don't have Instagram. Obviously, with me and her dad being very famous and whatever, it would put a lot of pressure and a lot of followers there.
Yeah.
So she did. She got Instagram.
Of course.
She blocked us, so we didn't know about it.
Yeah, of course.
So she had Instagram for a few months, and then her dad found out, and I found out, and we agreed she's not having the phones. So we took the smart devices off her. She doesn't have an iPad now. She doesn't have an iPhone.
Wow.
And we're going to see it. We'll try it again. Maybe in a few more months, we will try again and see how it goes. But it's just that stage of they're going to want to do what their friends are doing. And all their friends... And if it's just one thing, I mean, I'd understand if I said, right, you can't do anything. You can't do everything.
Yeah.
But it was one simple rule, and she broke it. And we're trying to find the right path for us. But I'm finding just... Even down to finding something she's interested in is hard work at the moment. She's a really good girl, really good. She helps me with the little kids. She's never cheeky. She's very polite to everybody. She's good at helping around the home. She'll do anything like that, and she's good at her studies.
Oh, give her back her phone.
No.
But
No, she has a phone, though. She does have a phone.
No, but you
just
did,
not a
you did
smartphone.
say to her, you gave her a rule and she broke it.
Yeah.
And you said it's not like you've got loads of restrictions on it. You see, I think that's good parenting, but that's the what Tyson and you did, which is take the phone and not give it her back. Sorry, Venezuela.
Didn't have
No,
to
she's
jump
here
on
for
it.
that. No, I know, but I think that's... My mistake would always be take the phone off, but then get so sick of either having to play finger painting or something or whatever. Not that you're going to do that
I
at
know
12.
what you mean.
But then I would
Yeah.
I end up giving the device back. So I think especially with 6 children as well, that's hard.
But the thing is, she has a phone. It's like, we'll try again in a few more months.
Yeah.
We'll give it another shot.
Yeah.
But she had, like, the other things, social medias. It was just Instagram, because we just knew that she would just become very famous on that. And it's like that pressure on a young child.
Yeah.
And it's not just the point of, it's the things that's going on with social media in this day and age for
And
young
it's difficult,
people.
though, isn't it? Because
Twitter's
as you
what she
said at the
wants to stay
start,
off
all
as well,
their...
though, as well. Don't let her
I
on
find
there.
As you
very
said
active on
at the start, all her friends are on it. So
Yeah.
it is quite difficult. Maybe she could go on it under an assumed name and have a private account, so she only...
But that's not what they want. They want followers.
Yeah,
And they want to be
They
all
do.
Instagram cool.
And what sort of a teenager were you then?
I was a really quiet teenager. I was really... I was quite quiet. I was slightly nerdy, really. I didn't do a lot. I used to study. I used to do my college work, and then I went out with Tyson at 16, and neither one of us drank. We didn't smoke. We didn't really party. So, yeah, I was quite a quiet kid.
Wow.
And if my mum ever said anything, I would always sort of try my best to do whatever it was. And if I didn't do it, I'd feel like, oh, been bad, ain't doing good. So...
Well, we know that Denzi had a tearaway 40s.
No, I was saying I wasn't a tearaway teen. I was quite... I think because my parents were quite liberal. I mean, I had boundaries and I knew what they were, but they didn't put on, oh, my God, They didn't put unnecessary restrictions on me, so I didn't have a massive amount to rebel against. But yeah, my tearaway teens came in my 30s and 40s when Matthew had to become like Safi from Ab Fab, you know, and tell me off for doing things. But I think it depends what tearaway is. Was I very good at school? No. Did I have to go and see the headmaster? Yes, I did. But I kind of went to school for the boys, not really for the education. But with my kids, there's been times when they've really pushed it, but I've never had massive door slamming. I've never been told to F off or, you know.
Yeah.
And I know some people do go through that. I've been surprised with some of my friends who I never thought would allow it.
Well, we do actually
how tolerant
have
they are of bad behaviour.
a tearaway teen among us, don't we, Linda Robson?
Yeah. I was quite naughty, I have to admit. So probably when I was about, well, the first time when I was at secondary school, probably when I was about 12 or 13, one of the teachers heard me swearing, so he took me in the toilet and washed my mouth.
What a surprise.
Oh, my God.
That was the first...
That didn't work, did it, washing your mouth out?
No, yeah. And then just as I got older, I was never at school. I was always bunking off. Otherwise, I was working. I'd have a tutor to help me. So I was never really educated because I was never at school, really. I used to write my own letters, like make out with my mum and say, Linda, I ain't at school today because of so-and-so. And actually... we drove someone's car once that we didn't have a driving licence or anything. We were probably about 15, 16, and just drove it round the block and then brought the car back again. How we didn't kill ourselves or something, I don't know. But the worst thing I used to do was when my mum and dad was in bed, so our bedroom was on the ground floor, my mum and dad was on the second floor, and I'd climb out the window of a night. So they'd think I was in bed. They're up in bed asleep, thinking she's safe in bed downstairs. I'd climb out and we'd go out with boys and whatever. And my mum used to have to drive around in a minicab in her nightdress to try and find me because I was never home when I was supposed to be home. Like, if she gave me a time to say home at 9 o'clock, I was never in at 9 o'clock. And that, so I was really little. But then karma happened because then Lauren, my oldest daughter, who's now 39, was a wild child. She really, really was. And she did all the things that I did, like she was out.
But she's lovely now.
Oh, she's gorgeous now, but she was never in when she was supposed to be in. She's absolutely lovely and she's a really good mum.
As you said, karma. Right, still to come, we're going to be talking about romantic gestures after one man changed his name for his partner as an anniversary gift. And we talk about children or marriage early on in a relationship, but is it time maybe that we started to talk about care, particularly in later life? We're going to be having an honest conversation about that just after the break. See you in a bit. Welcome back to your Wednesday Loose Women Live. Alongside me, Jane Moore, it's Linda Robson, Paris Fury and Denise Welsh. Coming up, presenter Claire Bording will be here at 1 o'clock. She's going to be telling us why her own upbringing inspired her to stand up and fight for women in sport. That's, I think, actually 1:15, not 1 o'clock. Now, sometimes it can be a struggle to think of a good gift to get your partner for your anniversary. However, one man went above and beyond when he presented his wife of 3 years with a deed poll, changing his name to her maiden name. Would any of you fancy this as an anniversary present? Linda, what about you?
No. Talking about romantic gestures, one romantic gesture was my husband bought me a lady shave for Christmas. And the other one, which was
practical.
It was practical, was quite romantic because he didn't fly. He was, like, petrified of flying. And without telling me, he did one of those BA flights where you just fly to, like, the Isle of Wight or to Jersey and it's 30 minutes. And he never told me. And then when he got back, he sent me a video of him on a plane, which meant we could then go on holiday together. Aww. Because we hadn't been on holiday together for years. And we ended up going to Jersey because it was only 35 minutes away. But then he hasn't flown now for years again, so he's going to have to do that again, I think, one day. But, yeah, that was the only sort of romantic gesture. I've still got the lady shave. I need it.
That's quite romantic in a way, though, isn't it? At least he's thinking of you.
Yeah.
Doesn't necessarily have to be a big bouquet of red roses. What about you, Paris?
I remember Tyson had a fight and I couldn't go because I mustn't have been well at the time. So when he landed back, I was looking forward to seeing him. It had been a week and he'd been gone all week and there was all this hype, so it was good to... I was waiting to have a chat to him. And the minute he landed back, he kept disappearing. He was driving here, driving there, driving off. And I ended up, like, really wanting to argue. We come back and I was like, you've been gone all week and you don't even care, you don't even want to talk to me. But what he'd actually done is he'd booked us a hotel, like a spa hotel. He'd been to the florist shop and bought roses. He'd bought rose petals. Oh. He'd went and bought all candles, a CD player and the Boys to Men CD. and he set the room all up himself. And this was before people done it for you. This was when he done it himself, got everything, lit all the candles, run a bath, put all salts and bubbles in, and then I felt like a bit of a...
And then baby...
a bad one when I was, like, trying to argue.
And then baby 6 came along.
Probably, more than likely.
I was going to say, a romantic gesture would probably give you a year off without having a baby with the amount you've got.
Is Lincoln a bit of a romantic?
Not in. I mean, he can be hearts and flowers and lovely little messages just on a Tuesday afternoon for no reason. So he does do that. But I think probably, in all seriousness, the most romantic thing he's ever done is get sober for me.
Mm.
Oh, that's good.
And you for him.
Yeah, me for him.
Lovely.
Oh,
A bit of romance on a Wednesday afternoon. Now, at the beginning of a new relationship, it's normal to start planning a potential future, such as a wedding maybe, or, indeed, in Paris's case, a baby,
First
6
discussion.
babies. However, a leading therapist in America says that what we should be really having an early conversation about is care, and to start planning for the end of life together, to sort of check that we're on the same page and that no one is left burdened with any decisions. Does that sound like a good thing to you, Linda?
Well, it wouldn't have sounded like a good thing because I never ever thought about it. But then my mum got dementia and she died 10 years ago. And for the last sort of 6 months of her life, we saw her like just deteriorate.
Yeah.
She was in a hospice and we used to go and visit her all the time. Or when she was at home, one of us would stay with her every night. But it puts a lot of pressure on us as well because, like, obviously we were working, but one of us had to be with her all the time. Or then now and again she'd turn up at my door at like 9 o'clock at night and say, "We're going to Sainsbury's now." I go, "Mum, it's time to go to bed," and whatever. So I have actually had that conversation with my kids because I said to them, no matter what happens, if I've got dementia, I don't want you to look after me. I want you to put me in a home. It's got to be a nice home, nice, comfortable one, you know, where you get well looked after and that. But I would hate to put that, like, to be a burden on them, you know, like, and they've all left home now anyway.
So when
they've all
did
got their own
you have that conversation sort of like at the time when your mum died?
I think after my mum died,
Yeah.
then I said to them, I really, really don't want to, you know, for you to have to go through what we did with our mum, you know, like, and we were there with her in the room when she passed away, and she passed away in peace and everything. But, yeah.
Because, I mean, that strikes me as something sensible, because obviously you're in that situation and an organic conversation comes out of it. But what this therapist is suggesting is that you kind of do it, like, really early on in the relationship.
You would have done it at 18 or whatever, wouldn't you?
I wanted to ask you, Paris, because obviously, you know, what Tyson does can be classed as quite dangerous. You know, he could be injured.
Yeah,
or...
we've...
Have you talked about that?
We've had this discussion later on in life, but obviously me and Tyson got married at 18 and 19, so at 18 and 19 we didn't go through them aspects at all, and even as the years went by we didn't talk about it. We have now, obviously the risks that's involved in boxing, and just like you say, things that happen in life, it makes you think, but we've never really dove deep into it. It's just been different things and opinions on what we think should happen if there was ever, God forbid, a problem. Then we've said our opinions on it and we've discussed it, but never thoroughly, and we've never set anything in place. We've never put legal documents there. It's just been a brief conversation. But I don't think it's a conversation you're going to have on your first date.
Not really. It's not very sexy.
No. I mean, even if you get serious in a relationship, regardless of age, I think if you were serious, you'd say, do you want marriage?
Yeah.
Do you want children? What work and where would we live? What will we do? But I don't think anyone's ever said, but what happens when we're 95? Or
Yeah.
But have you got...
Oh,
Because obviously now you have got 6 children, so there's, you know, big responsibilities. Have you done a will with that kind of stuff in it?
Do you know what? I actually haven't. I really need to. Yeah, I haven't. I haven't done this in place, but I kind of feel like a bit apprehensive
I think
against it,
people
and it's
feel like you're
bad.
tempting fate, but I was unaware that if you haven't got a will and haven't got anything really specified, the government will be able to take...
I think they can take half.
They can take a lot of...
And also, you're leaving a major headache for the people that have got to make those decisions on your behalf.
It is silliness, but I do need to set up things more in line because...
Oh, no, you must do a will.
Yeah.
I think, I mean, obviously, I'm 64, Lincoln's 50, so I married my carer.
Got it in the bag.
I got that in the bag, and I was thinking ahead very, very early. You know, yes, oh yes, he does. But in all seriousness, we have obviously had those discussions. But I think one of the things, I do agree with you, it's not something you're going to sit down in your early days when you're in the first flush of love. But one of the things that I would imagine that if you spoke to somebody you know, even of my Louis' age at 21, is the thing called power of attorney.
Yeah.
And I didn't realise that, say, when my dad was sick, if we hadn't had, if we hadn't had power of attorney, there were certain decisions that would have been out of our hands.
Yeah.
Unless you have that legally. You just think that because you're next of kin, that you'll automatically have that control. A bit like with a will, you'd think, well, if something happened to Tyson, it would go there and there. And it doesn't. So I think things like, I always feel about in schools, I think we've talked about this before, we learn about algebra and we learn about this, but we don't learn about mortgages. And I think there should be things like doing an early, doing an early will, doing power of attorney, just so that these things, you're obviously not thinking about care homes and stuff when you're that age, and you don't want kids to be, but certain things should be maybe introduced.
I mean, I think what you said, Paris, will resonate with a lot of people, because we've discussed wills on the show before, and a lot of people do that kind of like, oh, I don't want to go there. It's, I might be tempting fate. And it is, because it does take quite a bit of time to do, and it is difficult to sit down.
But I know on my behalf,
everything.
I think it's very silly for me not to do this. I know it needs to be done. It's one of them that, as you say, though, you kind of put it on because you don't want to think about that situation. But as a young woman with children, it should be put in place.
I mean, you can see in the papers.
I'm going to ring you and see if you've done it.
Yeah, no, me too. Because you can see in the papers every day there are stories where somebody has either become ill or died suddenly, and you can see problems with their families because nothing has been
It causes
laid
massive
out.
family rifts that never heal if there's not a will done.
Yeah. Right. That's your job.
That's my job.
That's your job. As if you haven't got enough to do.
Above the 1,000 other things I've got to do daily.
That is your job for after the show. Right, coming up after the break, presenter Claire Balding will be here for the first time since being made a CBE for her services to sport and charity. Something that she struggled to keep a secret from her family. Sounds a bit like you, Linda. We'll see you after this. Hello again. In just a few minutes, we'll be joined by Claire Balding. But first, if you'd like the chance to be part of our studio audience, like this lovely lot, then we have some good news for you. We've got new dates added for our festive shows. So if you fancy seeing us in the flesh, you lucky things, please head over to the website for more details. Now, it's time again for this week's competition, and the countdown is on for the chance to get your hands on £500,000. Oh, yes. Josie Gibson's in Cyprus to tell us how it could all be yours. Hi, Josie.
Ladies, welcome back to Alfie T's, where I have been finding out what life is like as an expat, and I think it's fair to say you're all having a well of a time, aren't you? Yeah. Now, you could literally have a brand new life in the sun with this competition, because we're giving away £500,000. Imagine getting your hands on £500,000, totally tax-free. It could all be yours, but you haven't got long on this, because lines close on Friday at 4 p.m. So I think it might be somebody else's turn to go on the karaoke. Who do you think? Me. While I warm up those vocal cords, you pick up the phone, get the entry in. Here's all the details. Good luck. Pass me the mic.
For another chance to win, text CASH to 82248. Text costs £2 plus one standard network rate message. Go to the website, entries cost £2. Call 09068 782248. Calls cost £2 plus your network access charge. Or post your name and phone number to Cash 44, PO Box 7558 Derby DE10NQ. Entrance must be 18 or over, and lines close at 4 p.m. on Friday the 4th of November. Good luck.
Billy May was a preacher's son, and when his daddy would visit, he'd come along. Then they get around, they started sulking. Cousin Billy would take me walking. Through the back streets we go walking. Then he'd look into my eyes. Lord knows, to my surprise, the only one who could ever teach me was the son of a preacher man. The only one who could ever reach me was the son of a preacher man. Yes, he was. He was. Whoa, yes, he was. Yeah,
Now then, she's one of the nation's best-loved broadcasters, presenting everything from royal weddings to Wimbledon. However, throughout her successful career, she's always fought to see more women thrive in sport. And after proving her own family wrong, she went on to present Grandstand back in 1995. Please welcome the amazing Claire Balding.
Josie can sing, can't she?
She can sing. So, Claire Balding, OBE, now CBE.
Yes.
Congratulations.
Well, not officially till I go to Maine.
What is it, next month?
December the 15th, yeah.
Does that mean you keep both, the OBE and the CBE? Or just give the other one back?
Well, I don't think they take it
no, I
back.
think you keep it, but you just, obviously, you
upgrade.
won't have OBE, CBE,
No.
you'll just have CBE.
Right.
Yeah.
So tell us,
Whatever
when you got the
you say.
letter, how did you... Was it completely out of the blue?
Yeah. I opened the letter and I thought, what have I done wrong? And then I stood there at the island in the kitchen and just started swearing. And very, very ladylike, obviously. And Alice said, what's happened? What's happened? And I said, look. And then I burst into tears. And then we had to keep it secret, so I couldn't tell my mum and I couldn't tell any of my family until it was...
Well, I mean,
Yeah.
well-deserved. You are a massive trailblazer in, being a woman presenting in a very male-dominated sort of
Well, I
forum.
don't think it is now. I mean,
Not now, no. I mean, back in the day. And I wanted to ask you, because actually even your own family took a bit of convincing, didn't they?
Oh, yeah, no, my dad is... I mean, he'd be top of the list of people who think women can't do anything, really. But I do think he's changed, and I hope... not.
He's evolved.
he's evolved, a little bit. But I think it's so exciting now, not only that there are so many women involved in sports broadcasting, which is fabulous, and
But a lot of that will be down to you, Claire.
Oh, I don't think so.
No, it will. They say you've got to see it to believe it.
Yeah, but I think also there are just way more opportunities, and it's about also convincing producers and editors to give you the chance. And what I'm really loving is there's so much more coverage of women's sport. And to me, that's hugely important because it's a very visible and strong way of showing women being competitive, getting up when they're tackled, trying again when they get beaten, being ambitious, being competitive, being forceful, and those being feminine attributes. This is not only something that men can do, and it's something we should celebrate because you also see women playing in teams, women playing individually, and it is about, I think, mental and physical strength, and sport is so beneficial, and I just want to help spread the message that the more girls that play sport or get involved in sport, either on the field of play or behind the scenes as coaches, as physios, as nutritional advisors, as event organisers, I think that the more we can make sport a place that we will all enjoy, because I think for lots of people, sport in school is something that made them feel very uncomfortable.
Well, yeah, and that was very dependent on the teacher as well.
And so I think giving them more options, you look at how cricket has changed completely. The 100 has meant that so many more girls and women get the chance to play cricket professionally. Rugby League, I'm president of the Rugby League, and the Rugby League World Cup is on at the moment, and I was yesterday in Leeds watching England women, their opening match against Brazil, and it's so exciting to see how Rugby League and Rugby Union, the Rugby Union World Cup's happening at the moment, down under, and just to see how many more options there are now for
Well, a lot
girls.
more girls now are playing football. Again, because you see them, they're so successful. And, and I do think that. I think you're doing yourself a disservice.
How do you feel, Claire... Sorry.
I was going to say Alex Scott has credited you for being somebody that she saw on television and aspired to be.
Oh, wasn't she brilliant on Graham Norton the other night with Taylor Swift? And watching Taylor Swift say to Alex, how much respect she has for I think, all of those who have been able to play football, who fought for the right to play football. And now you look at the Lionesses and how celebrated they are. And Jill Scott going off into the jungle.
Jill, I know. I've got my money on Jill.
Oh, she's superb.
How do you feel, Claire? Do you think we still have a way to go with women commentating on men's football, on soccer? Do you think that's still a toxic environment as regards people like you commentating on that?
Yes, and therefore I won't. No. What I think is exciting in some of the other sports, and just to mention Rugby League again, not only have we got a Women's World Cup happening alongside the men's and the wheelchair, all three, climaxing at the same time in November, 18th and 19th, just in case you want to know and want tickets. But also, we've had female referees for men's matches in Rugby League. Now, can you imagine that happening in men's football?
Yeah.
No.
I know in
And
boxing it's moving on, though. In boxing,
Yeah.
on the sports, they have the female commentator every time. They just had the new full show. The full panel was nothing but female boxing. Did you see it that night? The full
I
bill
did.
was
I watched
all
it.
boxing.
Yeah.
All women, and it was
Yeah.
amazing. It was such a good watch. Tyson even come home out of training camp to watch it.
Really?
Yeah, and we sat up with
And
my
it
little
sold
girl.
out. It was the O2 and it
I
was
said
absolutely
that.
sold out. Yeah.
Yeah.
Savannah Marshall and Clarissa Shields had the
I know,
final
what a
fight,
fight,
which was
yeah.
sensational.
And they are doing it so much more now. It's so much more.
And actually, and that's why, you know, Action Women of the Year, which
Yes,
is
I was about to ask you about that.
on BT Sport. We've done it for 10 years, and that is really celebrating that huge cross-section of sports that women are now involved in. And this year's shortlist, Beth Mead is there, obviously from the Lionesses, Golden Boot winner at the European Championships, but Molly Meatball McCann, big UFC superstar, Ailish McColgan, do you remember her winning the 10,000 metres at the Commonwealth Games? Everyone crying. Hannah Cockcroft, wheelchair athlete, Eve Muirhead, who skipped the curling team to gold at the Winter Olympics. And it's just wonderful to see that huge range. And the youngest one on the list is Andrea Spendolini-Syriax, the diver who won Commonwealth Games.
Who's Fred Syriax's daughter.
Exactly
yeah.
right. So it's a really lovely way of saying, look at what all these women have achieved. Let's celebrate the differences and the messages that they have, as well as what they've actually done in sports. I find it hugely inspirational. I love doing it. We've done it for 10 years now. And it's a public vote, so it's really, really great.
Fantastic.
And we were talking, one of the topics we were discussing was romance. Did I hear with Alice, your lovely wife Alice,
Yes.
that she didn't tick all the boxes you wanted in a woman? She ticked the boxes
No, it's the other way
Other way
round.
round. Other way round. She put a
did
list.
tick all the boxes.
Yeah, no, I didn't. She put
did
a
tick all
list
the
on the
boxes.
fridge for reasons why she shouldn't get involved with me.
Oh, she did that.
That's a bit cruel.
What were they then?
One, I was a television presenter. I did telly. Oh, there are lots of things, but it's OK. 20 years later, I've managed to convince her it was the right.
And have you
choice.
two, we're again talking about topics, have you two had a discussion about later life and care and...
Well, here's the thing. I want to live in a house with all my school and university
Yes, that's
mates.
the
and my work
greatest
friends.
idea.
I want to live in a commune with all my mates.
Yeah.
Alice really doesn't.
Like the
so-
Golden Girls.
She's like, that's a terrible
We
idea.
can all get Shady Pines together, can't we? Like the Golden Girls,
That'd be terrific. And then you can share care, as it were. And then you can all have dogs as well, and it doesn't matter who's going away on holiday. Someone's always there to look after.
And I believe
Donkeys, I'd like
she's chosen
donkeys.
her care home already, right? Did you say?
Well, she's quite... Is it called Denville Hall, the one for the actors?
For the actors,
yeah. Well, Alice has done a bit of acting, so she probably qualified.
That would be fun, wouldn't it? And are you still going to be doing more Gogglebox?
Oh, I hope so, yeah. We really enjoy that. Do it at home. And they bring... You probably know, they bring a little hamper of goodies. So that's quite nice.
Oh, they supply you with snacks.
That's one of my favourite shows.
Fantastic, fantastic.
Yes.
Well, Claire, as ever, a joy to have you with us. And that's BT Sports Action Woman Awards. Very important indeed. Go women. That is it for today. Tomorrow we're joined by Strictly Sizzlers, Fleur East and Vito Coppola. See you then. Bye-bye.